right, everyone. Good morning. Back again to the Gravity Trained podcast. My name is Bruno Rodrigues, the founder of Gravity Trained. I am the personal trainer and posture coach side of the business, and I'm here with my dad.
And I'm Cleber, Bruno's dad, and I'm the running coach side of the business, and I'm here to help people athletes that are involved in endurance sports and want to take for the next level. And we'll be here talking about different subjects that will help you to go beyond your basic understanding and help you to understand better your fitness level, health. So, and you're going to be talking about several different subjects here. So today, we decided to talk about Vo2MAX. So that would be the subject. So Vo2MAX is something that it's very controversial. People give a lot more value and think that, I mean, it is a big deal with the Vo2MAX. What is it, first thing, right? So the Vo2MAX is pretty much a measure that we have for the maximum volume of oxygen that you can take in and use during an exercise. And people, and that's divided by, depends on your body mass. So it's measured by milliliters of oxygen per body mass, body weight actually, divided per minute. All right, so that's how much milliliters of oxygen per kilogram can be used in a minute. And people have different ones. And we will be talking about like how can you improve and how this actually affects your training. Okay.
Yeah. So this was a much more technical topic that we chose, and I chose it because since you're an endurance athlete, and I would call myself an endurance athlete only because of jiu-jitsu, you have to have stamina, right? I think it would be important for people that are interested in basically just being well conditioned to know like what it is and how to train it, right? Because when I think of Vo2MAX and what I think most people think when they think of Vo2MAX is long distance running. But I think that there's more scenarios where that's important, and I feel like it would be a good idea for us to just talk it over and just kind of have some idea of why it's important outside of just being able to do a sport for a really long time.
Yep. So it's funny that you talked about like jiu-jitsu and all that. So because it matters, because the Vo2MAX, it's basically it, how much oxygen you can actually take in, but that influences your recovery, your endurance. And pretty much the Vo2MAX is just the final measure that we do, but how do we get there? So really to improve that, we gotta go to the foundation. Where does all this oxygen that is taken in goes? It goes to the mitochondria, which is pretty much the power plant inside our cells. So when you take in your oxygen, it goes to your lungs and then goes to your bloodstream, then goes to your mitochondria. That transforms that into an ATP, and that becomes energy. So really, you should be first more concerned about how your mitochondria is actually functioning than your Vo2MAX, because ultimately is your mitochondria, how is that functioning, that will dictate how good is your Vo2MAX, Bruno.
Awesome. That's really good to know. Okay. So maybe this conversation has to be a little bit about mitochondria health too. And what do you know about mitochondria health that we can talk about here? How do you get the mitochondria to be better?
Well, and that's controversial, But as far as we know here, it's not like it's a combination of different exercises, but mostly you build more mitochondria actually on low intensity exercise, like zone 2, long like exercise. That's how you build where people don't want to be to have a healthy mitochondria is like the mid-range, the gray zone that we call. Like it's not like too high of intensity, it's not too low. Because of course it's important to do the very high but short exercise. That's important, but mostly the majority in terms of time spent training, you're gonna be like in low intensity. And then you go like a smaller time, and you can use like the 80-20. And that's pretty much the way the endurance elite athletes train. That's the 80-20. Low intensity training, 80%, 20%, you go explosive training, intervals, 4x4, 30 seconds by 30, like climbing hills, and then long, slow, low effort exercise. And that's where people make mistakes. People work too much, and then when I train people, they always, people think that more is better, and it's not. When I say low intensity, it is low intensity. When you build mitochondria is actually when you train. And for example, for me, which is endurance and running, if I say, okay, it's going to be like we have the RPE, right? Rate of perceived effort. So there's different measure that we can use, but mostly we use like 1 to 10. And 1 to 3 is pretty much that you can train, you can walk, you can talk. So we do the talk test. So if you talk 1 to 3, usually you say that you can run and talk like full phrases. You can actually breathe through your nose. You don't have to use your mouth. So that's the intensity that you're going to be building your mitochondria. So that's where you go. It's pretty easy to assimilate, and you're going to keep this very simple and not going to go into any like a technical names and things. So I want to make this very simple to people to understand and make it practical, you know?
Awesome. And so let me ask you this. So if mitochondria is built on zone 2 training, is mitochondria broken down, and is it destroyed if you go too hard, like zone 4 or sometimes zone 5, or is that not a thing?
No, you have to train that because mitochondria will affect the kind of energy, will affect different energy systems that you're going to be using. Mostly, you're going to be using where you're going to, how to say, grow into the mitochondria. The evolution here is on the low intensity, but you do need high intensity as well. You got to just avoid the mid-range system because that's not going to take you anywhere. Either you go
So
low or you go high, you know?
so when we were the times where we ran, we would do like heart like the heart rate. I remember maybe this was so long ago that you've changed your style, but I remember when we were running in Kona, we were running and you were like, you want to keep your heart rate at 145, right? 5. And and that's not my zone 2. My zone 2 based on my age is like 110, right? But 110 I feel like is walking.
Yeah, no, but that day that we were running there, I mean, well, I was not kind of a training at zone 2 because zone 2 for me, it's a little lower too than 145.
We lost the signal right here, and so we just had to take a little break, and then we came back right back.
All right, let's go back. So go
Yeah,
back
no,
here, my radio went off here.
it's fine. So yeah, so Tell me like how, what was that we were doing, and then how can people actually do zone two? Because it feels like it's very low.
And it is very low. I mean, there's different ways of we're training on zone two. I believe that the most effective way would be by heart rate, but you can train like by RPE, like the rate of perceived effort. You can train by heart rate, zone two. You can actually divide that really well, but the percentage of your threshold, right? You can also do by pace. The zone two, if you used to in a flat area, it's more difficult when you do that by heart rate, when you do like trails, because I mean, the variability of the terrain, difficulty change too much. But keep it low, keep it comfortable. That's the key here. Make sure that, see, the talk test is important. Make sure that if you're in a zone where you have to just, you can only talk a few words, you're above zone two, right? You can actually.
It would kind of, I don't know, it's sort of counterintuitive, you know? It's like you would think, because the VO2 max, it's your ability to take in more oxygen, right? And I would imagine that if you're just constantly just breathing in and out with no effort at all, like how would that actually increase your VO2 max? Like how would that increase your ability to take in more oxygen? Like it doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, but I mean, many things don't actually make much sense because you're not actually increasing anything with your lungs, because it's not, you're not making your lungs bigger or anything, but it's the capacity of transforming this oxygen into energy. And that's, we're training the mitochondria. Once again, why mitochondria matters, because they control the energy production, muscle performance, brain function, heart function, aging process, endurance capacity, immune system efficiency. I mean, there's many things that the mitochondria matters. And you can see that this is extremely important. And for athletes and runners that are watching this here, by improving your mitochondria, you're going to have a better endurance, a higher VO2 max, better fat metabolism. So this is important because, see, fat metabolism, it's big. And how you burn fat, usually in low effort, right? Zone two, zone one. So that's how you burn fat. And then you're going to have less fatigue, faster recovery. So that's why the endurance training, altitude also is extremely important. So if you're going to focus on something, focus on mitochondrial density and efficiency. That would be like a given on this, Bruno.
Okay. You know, I'm thinking about so first off, I actually want to get back to that question of like what were we training that day in Kona when we were running? Because we were trying to hit 145, right? That was like don't go
Yeah.
over 45, don't go below. What were we training then?
Well, we were just trying to keep our, I would say, like an intensity 3 to 6 over there. That would be what I go for in a race, because that's the percentage, my heart rate that I try to stay in 145. Of course, when you go uphill, you're gonna go to 160. But and then when you're walking uphill as well, you're gonna go low 130, depending on how you push. But what I mean is like where people make mistakes in races is that they go too strong here, and they vary too much. So these blow-ups that they do end up compromising in the long term, especially long races. You got to minimize the variability of your run. If you're running uphill, you slow down. You don't want to go too above the 145 or 135, something like that. You want to keep it steady. If you're going downhill and your heart rate goes too low, speed up a little bit. Try to maintain, don't have too much of a difference. So that's what we were training that day. It wasn't any like a specific training. And I was trying to beat your ass as well.
Yeah, what you did, it's really fucking hard, man. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and um, he has the same body type as me, right? And if just we were talking like it's so different to have a body type like ours compared to someone that's thin and tall like you. I just feel like
Uh-huh.
there's more weight and gravity just pushes us down differently. But I mean, I can't make too many excuses because it's not like people like me don't run. It's just a little bit more challenging, you know. I have more of like a wrestler's body than a runner's body. All right, we're back from our little break here. Okay, so before we start, I just want kind of I wanted to mention something that reminded me that I thought about while we were talking about this. So whenever I'm doing jujitsu, and I feel like I'm burning out, and I feel like I don't have any more power, what I'll do is I'll actually exhale a lot, and I'll keep just getting air out of my lungs, so I'm able to take bigger breaths in. And so I learned this from Hicks and Gracie, and there was never really a good explanation for it. And the only explanation I learned was there's dead air inside, and every time you inhale, it's basically like that your can is too full of dead air. And so instead of inhaling more, we need to get rid of the air to make room for new air so your body can use the new air to be able to move efficiently. And after hearing you talk, I mean, that's basically exactly what I'm trying to go for with this mitochondrial health I don't need more air. I need to get rid of the air that I've already used. And so now this makes sense because now I can actually help more people with this because I feel like I'm the only one that does it in my gym and they think it's weird. But I don't have an explanation for it. But now I do. And so, I mean, is what I'm thinking like correct?
That's absolutely right because I mean, two bodies cannot occupy the same space, the full space at the same time. You got to pick your battle here. Either you pick the CO2 or you go to oxygen, right? So, but practically speaking, is difficult because if you're hustling there, like you're pushing, you're running, you're going to your limit. Uh, you got to think about this at least at the beginning to make this automated.
You know,
Maybe in your case, it's already automated, but you're doing it instinctively.
yeah. You
You,
know what I
you
do?
know,
So I have a saying I tell all my clients this, it's exhale on the effort. So that's what I tell them. Just exhale on the effort. Every time you do something hard,
yeah.
full effort. So then you have more room because what most people do is they hold their breath,
No, you
and then
gotta
they
excel. You gotta excel.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always been
But
helpful for me. Exhale on the effort, and then you'll have more room to keep breathing in, right? And then beyond just the mitochondrial health, there's also the nervous system improvements, right? Your body
yeah,
feels safer if it knows it can breathe.
absolutely,
It's a
absolutely.
whole
But
totally different thing.
it's a whole package. We're trying to make things sound simple because I mean, more things you add to the equation here, more complex things stay, and then you end up not absorbing what we really want you to absorb and use, right? So, but it's important to know that the mitochondria, I told before that you actually improve the mitochondria like in low effort and like zone 2, but when you improve the mitochondria to that level, training like that, you're going to be able to actually burn fat metabolism with the high intensities. If you have your mitochondria working like to the maximum capacity, let's say, a well-trained mitochondria, you burn fat at higher intensity, you spare glycogen. What that means? Because I mean, if you have the glycogen, you have our carbs, and that's why when you're running in endurance sports, you actually take the carbs, right? You take your gels to not to you take your liquids to hydrate, but you can burn fat at a higher intensity. You spare glycogen. You delay bonking. Improve your ultra distance performance. So that's what we want. You want to be able to use our oxygen sent to our muscles and to endure the maximum time that you possibly can.
So basically, if your mitochondria is working well at these higher intensities, then your body, when it needs energy, it's going to be able to use the fat stores in your body to make you move, to make you keep going. But if your mitochondria wasn't working well, then it would have to tap into glycogen. But most of our glycogen comes in the form of food or in our muscles.
Muscles, that's the key. It goes to your muscles, right? Yeah.
So then you would either be losing muscle, or you would tap out, because you would basically go through all your food stores, right?
That's exactly
And
it. That's exactly
that's
it.
like the worst thing that's like the worst thing ever.
Yeah, of course. So, and this is like a win-win situation. So you go at low, you maximize your mitochondria the function, right? Sending oxygen. And then, of course, and you can use it in low and you can use it in high. So that's a
Very cool.
win-win situation. So that's how
Very cool.
important that is. And talking about the Vo2MAX here, and many people think that if you have a higher Vo2MAX means that you're, for example, Bruno, if you're younger, I mean, my Vo2MAX is something, yours is way bigger than mine. Doesn't mean that just because your Vo2MAX is bigger than mine, doesn't mean that you can run faster than me, you can run or bike stronger than me, you know? This is the Vo2MAX is a measure that you can use in terms of comparison more to your own numbers, right? Because you can see if your Vo2MAX is this many liters, you're talking about liters and milliliters, right? 4, 5, 1, 2, 6, 7. But you compare yours, okay, am I progressing? Am I training well that my Vo2MAX is actually progressing? Then you see, okay, I'm doing this right. But you're probably not going to get anywhere comparing yours to somebody else, right? So, but you got to pay attention to your own Vo2MAX, which matters, right? Your cardiovascular, it's even related to these days to longevity. You know, Vo2MAX is something, okay, if you have a Vo2MAX, a great Vo2MAX, I mean, that means something big for your life. So it's important.
Yeah, because mitochondria, at the end of the day, it's like, I guess, it's like it fuels everything, right? So the more mitochondria we have, the more the more, I guess, the more brain power, the more ability we have to use our body to its full capacity, right? It's like having a credit card with $100,000 on it. If we need it, it's there. But if we don't have that and we need it, then it's like, well, now I'm kind of stuck with what I have.
Yeah, and mitochondria goes also, Bruno, to the CNS, right? Our central nervous system and mental performance. So mitochondria in the brain, I mean, affects our focus, our reaction time, motivation, stress tolerance, mental fatigue, you know, resistance. So all this, the fatigue is neurological, not just muscular. So you got to think about all this, how important this is.
Man,
And people,
that's so true. Man, that's so true. Like it's a couple months ago, like like in the middle of building this parts of my business here, and the stress is high. It's like, man, I can't really, like, my brain just fries, and I'm just tired for days. I'm using like too much brain power, and I don't have, like, it's like my brain is working harder than it can, and then I just gas out and burn out.
Yeah, you gotta pay attention to this, Bruno. This is extremely, extremely important. When you talk, also can talk about the recovery and injury prevention. Strong mitochondria equal faster tissue repair, better inflammation control, better sleep quality. Think about this. I mean, how would you think about this? Okay, Vo2MAX, mitochondria, sleep quality, this hormonal balance, lower overtraining risk. There's so much at stake here to
Mm.
ignore your own Vo2MAX. So we're talking about your Vo2MAX. We're not comparing to other people. Because I mean, at the beginning, when I didn't know enough about it, I would say, oh, how much is yours? Okay. But I mean, as you learn more about it, I mean, no reason to compare to other people. But
I'm remembering that meme that we watched where it was like an 80-year-old guy competing in the Ironman, and it was like a picture. It was like 80-year-old guy finishes the Ironman. What's your excuse? And then there was like a comment.
he had more time to train.
It's like shit like that, right? So you just compare to other people, but it's like,
You're
no,
always gonna find an excuse, right?
yeah, guy's been training for 15 years. What do you expect, dude?
I mean, let me get there. When I get there, I'll do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Oh
good.
man.
That's good.
No, this is so fantastic, man. So fantastic. So I guess that you have like a little topic is still like the performance equation simplified. So I made some notes here. So the performance equal cardio capacity, heart and lungs, muscle mechanics, nervous system, so mitochondrial density and efficiency. So most athletes train everything except mitochondria properly. So that's one of the things that I'm learning to expose my athletes to it and understand how important that is. I didn't have a chance to go deeper with them, but I hope they will be able to learn more about it there. And after watching this podcast here, many people probably will have a little bit more interest into this.
This is great. I think I learned a lot myself for sure. And so, I mean, I guess the biggest takeaway for me here, and just moving forward, what I'll tell my clients is like, we need to be training low intensity, and it doesn't matter what kind it is. It can be on the treadmill, it can be lifting some weights in a way that I can still talk and just keep pushing, and just keep that heart rate in that range. And then once, yeah, I guess maybe a couple weeks into it, we can start to go up and down, high intensity, low intensity. Is there a time frame of when mitochondria increases? Like, how long does it take for you to uh, increase your VO2 max score?
I mean, you can see changes like in 2, 3 months. If you do this right in 2, 3 months, you can start seeing your VO2 max improving and improving and improving. Because the first thing that actually, when you train, your cardiorespiratory system improves faster than your muscles. So you will feel that you can breathe easier, way faster, then you can actually take the exercise the way you're going to feel your muscles. So the muscle, what's the word? Uh, um, in,
Endurance?
in yeah, the muscle endurance takes longer. That's the last thing. So it's just the lung capacity it is way faster. So if we synthesize things here to finish up the podcast here, so how athletes build the mitochondria? So as we talked before, zone 2 training, foundation, long, easy aerobic work builds mitochondrial density, improves fat oxidation, and increases capillarization. So what you want to make sure that all these capillaries, and Bruno, you correct my English here, my pronunciation, if I'm saying it wrong, like your small blood vessels, right? So the capillaries, those are the ones responsible really to feed your muscles with oxygen. So that's what you want to do, right? So interval trainings. So we go like for the base, right? Zone 2. Now we're going for the high zone, for the push, for the explosive. So we go to Vo2MAX intervals, like 2 minutes, 4 minutes, medium recovery. You don't want to recover too much when you do intervals. So you don't want to be totally rested.
And
Right?
what is the heart rate on this because I've tried to do this 4x4 and I don't know how hard I should push because it's not 100, right?
No,
So
no,
is that 40
100%
to
is
60?
like 20 seconds, 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's
and
for
you should not go 4x4, but that's probably more for athletes more well trained. I probably would go 2 minutes and 45 seconds. You know,
okay.
Uh,
At what heart rate? At like a zone 3?
forget about the zone. The zone, push the max speed and effort that you can sustain for those
For
2 minutes
for
without
those
slowing down. Do
okay.
this, all right? If you don't start too hard, you start at like a medium hard, but you don't want to slow down at the end. You want to have gas to actually, okay, I'm 30 seconds away to finish. You want to have like you want to the negative splits. You want to be able to push there, but it's the max effort that you can take without stopping for 2 minutes, right?
Okay.
And, and then this is actually done 2 minutes if you pick up a hill, Bruno, like a slope.
Yeah.
See a slope, maybe what, 200 meters. That's enough, and then you go uphill and then you walk down. Again, walk down. So but of course, you warm up first, like 10, 15 minutes jogging. And then when you get there, you're going to do this. And you're going to be gassed out at the end of 2 minutes. Right? Then you can do like start with 4, 6 reps. Then you're going to increase 8, 10, or you can also keep the same 4, 6, and you reduce the resting. Like if you do 45 seconds, reduce to 30. It's pretty much the same effect. So either you reduce the resting or you expand the reps that you want to do,
Okay.
right? Strength training, that's another thing that you can do. And if you use, it's amazing how when you do, for example, Garmin, if you do an aerobic training, you can reach anaerobic training when you do strength way faster than you can actually. I mean, if you don't stop too much, of course, but your heart rate doesn't go as high as it has to go to reach the anaerobic range when you're doing strength training. So that increases the mitochondrial efficiency as well, in the muscle fibers, right? Then we have the other thing that it's kind of difficult for most people to train like altitude. When you train in altitude, also is you have what they call hypoxia. So that also stimulates the mitochondrial I forgot the name now. What is it? But what is it? Biogenesis, something like that. Yeah. So, but it's hard for most of people, right? But for me, it's that I like endurance and sports where the races are in altitude. That is important to train as well. Maybe you have another thing to talk about. Let me see my notes
No,
here. So,
no, you're the expert here on this one, so I really wanted to get your opinion on
yeah,
all this stuff.
I have my notes here. So the fasting also, low carb sessions, strategic. The train metabolic flexibility improves fat oxidation pathways. So even fasting, it's incredible, Bruno. All these little things, and just to remind what we talked about before, the mistakes that athletes do is too much training in the gray zone, mid-range, zone 3.
Too
You
much
know,
in zone three.
yeah, too much in zone 3. That doesn't take you to, too far. You gotta take it easy on that.
Okay.
Don't go too far. Either go slow or you do this explosive. Like explosive trainings you do twice a week. You do 3 of these slow ones, like a low a week, and then you can do some mid-range, end of the week, long run, or you do some effort. So that's pretty much a kind of a
Awesome.
general, all right?
As massive help, super helpful. Yeah, super. I feel like it's the opposite. You do 3 times a week in zone three. You do once a week in slow and once a week in fast, and then you think, oh yeah, I feel good. But it doesn't feel like you're actually progressing. You're just
Going anywhere, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You're consistent with your workouts, but there isn't any sort of feeling of progression.
yeah. And then the amount of the time that you're gonna train depends on what you're training for, of course, right? And that is customized when we put like a running plan together. What's your goal? What's your current fitness situation? You've been running, you're not. I mean, you run flat, you run in hills, so, but we can get anywhere with training. I mean, that's absolutely possible.
All
All
right.
right, I guess I guess we talked about enough of this subject today. We, like a friend of mine would say, we killed a dead horse. we beat, well, how you say? It's
We beat a dead horse.
yeah, beat a dead
Yeah.
horse. Yeah, so
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna use that today when I go to work. Work out on myself today. Do some
all
mitochondrial
right,
training.
beautiful. All right, guys, I loved it, and I liked because the podcast actually developed in a good way here. I hope everybody liked it, and if you have some questions, you can actually, I mean, post it in here. We'll most likely we will answer for sure. All
Yeah,
right.
for sure. Yeah, I liked it too. It kind of went kind of like branched out, right? Like we were talking about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Vo2MAX, then
Oh,
mitochondria, and it was good.
yeah. I was worried a little bit at the beginning because I said, well, it's going to be a short one, but ended up that we explored in a simple way, uh, very well. I
Yeah,
believe so. I believe so.
yeah. The type of like the way that I try to explain stuff to my clients is try to explain it as if, you know, they didn't have any interest in going into the science and they just want the practical steps, right? Like just practical. Like this is something I could tell my grandma, I could tell my 5-year-old son, and they would
Yeah,
both understand what I'm trying to say, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's
We're not trying to show off. We're just
yeah.
trying to translate in effectively and usable way how this VO2 max and mitochondria improvement applies to your life.
Yeah.
And I
Awesome.
believe we achieved that
Yeah,
in this podcast.
for sure.
Right?
Okay, until
Excellent.
next week.
Thank you.
See y'all.